Here's our final week for active recovery in this training cycle with our strength stretching, working on the back bridge and the wheel. So we're going to retest. So what you were able to do week 1 or not able to do is going to be what we finally compare to all these 5 weeks that we've been working on it. There's going to be no props. So we want to do this now from the floor. Let's see how we can progress this from the floor, get some good general full body mobility as well, and work on some of those same movements. If you're struggling, especially with the hip wipers, I know it's a challenge for somebody to get the knees down onto the ground and off the ground at the same time. So we're gonna go through things that you're familiar with and finally get this last test in. So let's get started here. Hands and knees, flexion, extension through the spine, a little bit of scapular retraction. I wanna separate the shoulder blades as much as possible and then retract the shoulder blades as you look up. So 3 things we're thinking about here: the flexion extension of the spine, the scapular or the shoulder blades squeezing together and separating. Okay, that's retraction, protraction, while maintaining the elbows in a straight position. And then finally, the tailbone, posterior and anterior tilt. So when I get into this extension here, I'm anterior or forward tilting. And when I get into the flexion, I am going to posterior or backwards tilt the pelvis. So let's do a few of these so you can think about all of it. I know it's a lot, especially when you're trying to find the end ranges, but you've got your spine, your shoulder blades, and your hips or your pelvis. So let's do one more here. Flexion, and then extension. Looking up nice and high. Knees a little wider, hands a little narrower, one hand behind the head. Get some rotation. Gradually increase this, don't force it. Find that end range and then just come right back down. Each one you do, you should be able to get a little bit more range of motion. Focus on your breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, or in through the nose, out through the nose. One more, and switching sides. Gradually increase that rotation. 3, 2, 1. Fingers out, knees a little closer together. Drop the hips down to one side. Keep the hips over top of the knees. Lower yourself down towards the ground. Lengthen that spine. Another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, some more. Continue this rotation through the spine. Lower leg is straight. We're going to go into our full body rotation here. Top leg bent, pinning that down. And then let's rotate. Think about the shoulder now as well. So the 2 movements we've got through the spine. So as we open up, we're segmenting that spine, lengthening the spine. We're also screwing the shoulder into the socket. So think about the thumb coming down to the hand or down to the knee, and then thumb down towards the ground, overhead. We try to lengthen. Exhale at the top. And that exhale, see how much you can relax and lengthen overhead. 2 and 1. Flip on the other side. Top leg, 90 degrees, lower leg straight, pin it down. And then the same thing as those rotations we did from the kneeling position. Just take your time, gradually increase the range of motion. You come from one side, after you finish that and gone to the other, it's gonna feel, you might think, okay, this is the stiff side. Well, it is right now because you're just starting. It should loosen up. It very well may be a little bit stiffer than the other side, but you've got to gradually warm this up, lengthen it out, maybe get it as close to as limber as the other side as possible. Remember to keep that lower leg straight. Think about your pinky toe and your thumb reaching as far away from each other as possible. Another 5, 4, exhale at the top, 3, 2, and 1. Little rock, knees into the chest, and then up into some wipers. Okay, the wipers. So I've been doing these now for so long, and believe me, I'm still not completely mobile enough through the hips. Getting there, and I'm not up bragging, but I'd say better than average. Not doing the splits. But when I say average, I mean when I'm teaching this in a class and I'm seeing all the variations happen here, I realize how important this simple prep movement is. Not just for warming up, but teaching how the hip rotates in the socket. So when you start to teach, it's like, I use the analogy, if you can wiggle all your toes at the same time, independently, move them around, which is a neurological feat on its own. Okay, that is, if you were to say, the most challenging thing you could teach yourself to do. This is challenging if you are not able to get the proper movements, and part of that's the setup, so we've been doing this a lot now, so you're just gonna know, you should know that the knee is right behind the heel, right? And then we wanna get the legs to come up and down simultaneously. Now I'm keeping my chest forward, I've got my hands behind me here supporting, but now what we're gonna do, you're gonna take the hands off of the ground, you want to stay in this position, and then we're going to go through the same movement. We want to do the same thing. Knees come off and down to the ground at the same time. Okay, this is something that if you haven't gotten over the past 5 weeks, something you can work on definitely. 4, 3, you'll end up scooching forward on this. 2, and 1. Okay, recenter yourself. Let's go into a 90-90 or a figure 4 position. Okay, figure 4 dabs, reach forward, palm is up, and then back leg comes forward in a cross-legged position. And a little bit more on those wipers. Again, that internal rotation, you get through the hips, and knowing how to control the hips. That's the stability you need for lunges, for squats, help improve your range of motion, get that depth. Okay, and now as we go into these figure 4 rotations, we're lengthening the spine a little bit more from a different angle. Creating some tension on the outside of the hips. 3, 2, and 1. Switching sides. 90-90, figure 4, and dab. Reach, palm comes up, back leg comes around. Okay, those of you who sit a lot and struggle with these, especially the wipers and these figure 4 dabs, you're not able to control those stabilizers, those small muscles in the hips. These are even more critical. You've got more room for improvement to become better than average. Okay, but even more important for you, because as soon as these muscles turn off, or what can be referred to as gluteal amnesia, and you're not able to, I didn't make that one up, promise, 2, and you're able to start controlling them, okay, you can help prevent back pain, you can help improve your squats, and good, cross. So do not neglect them. All right, lying down now, we're gonna go down to iron cross and scorpion, arms out to the side, kick. Last time I went through this tutorial to explain that it's not just as simple as bringing the leg across. We want to think about the knee flexing and extending. Keep the backs of the hands on the ground, palms up to the ceiling. And you know what we're doing with this, it's basically an extended general prep. Spending a little bit more time getting a little bit deeper in these positions because we aren't going to be loading up hips, shoulders. So we want to try and make up for the lack of reps in the loading phase. So when I say loading, we're doing squats, okay, or lunges, deadlifts or swings, by adding volume here. So there's not a lot of load. We're just doing body weight, but we're adding a lot of volume. 2, 1, and good. Little rock. Lengthen that spine. Loosen up the sides of the hips. Now let's go into scorpion. Scorpion, the opposite from your stomach. Palms down onto the ground. Just go gentle the first couple as you get used to the rotation. Palms stay on the ground. Think about your big toe, the inside of your big toe coming towards the ground. And then once you start to loosen up, think about the pinky toe going towards the ground as well. But you don't need to. I'm not there. I don't think I might if we do 100 of these. Might get there. But we're just trying to get the big toe inside, big toe inside of the big toe down to the ground. Alternate, get a little bit further. Think about the foot also going towards the hand. Get more of that extension through the spine. Okay, and this is also a great hip flexor stretch, right? We're lengthening through the hip flexors. Another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There's a concept called upper and lower cross syndrome. When we do these rotations, right, we're loosening up. So if you think about that scorpion, I'm moving one leg behind. So what I'm doing here is I'm loosening up through that front hip and then rotating through and extending through the back. And this opposing, so think lower front, upper back, oppose each other. And when you can start to loosen those both up, the whole system starts to work more efficiently. So these rotations, especially corresponding between hips and spine, are so important because how they work synergistically together. And this is going to be, especially if you've got tightness, let's go into this frog position, knees at a little bit wider, sort of the phantom stiffness or phantom back pain. What I mean by that, phantom pain or ghost pain, is you don't know where it originated. You don't know what caused it. You don't know where it came from. So by doing these types of movements, take what's called a shotgun approach. We start to look at the whole system, not just where the symptom originates, but what could the mechanism of injury be? What could the mechanism be causing that discomfort? So you start to loosen up the full system. Pay attention. Are those discomforts going away? Are those phantom or ghost pains going away, or at least subsiding, getting better? So this is something that really, when we take these higher volume approaches, okay, with low load, personally, over the past few years, I have preferred doing heavier, deep squats for stretching or active stretching or mobility, if you will, compared to just holding static stretches. I think bang for your buck, not just personal or anecdotally, but research-wise, helps improve. Another 2, 1, then we're gonna get one foot out. And when we sink back now, we're gonna pivot onto the heel, toes up to the ground, take that butt down to the ground. But when we move load through a full range of motion, we are actively stretching. And that is a good way to help improve your range of motion while simultaneously improving your strength. Okay, so now higher volume, lower loads, help pick up the slack there. Allows you to focus on the movement a little bit more when there's lighter loads or no loads. So right now you should feel this transfer from the hips or adductors into the hamstring, especially high hamstring. Sink that butt down. 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's flip over the other side. Leg out. Gradually sink into it. And there's always the contrast from one side, left side to the right side, or vice versa. You realize how much work you've done when you get over to that other side. Especially when we do them all on the one side. The scorpion, right, or the iron cross, we did about 50 of those. And we're alternating each time. So you're increasing that range of motion. It's one at a time. Whereas when we do these consecutive, let's say 25 reps all on one side, you really begin to loosen up that one side. So when you go over to the other side, you get that contrasting comparison as to, well, I mean, I'm not preaching to the choir here. You know that stretching and mobility work and all this good stuff actually helps you. We're not just virtue signaling that we are fit individuals. We're actually doing something about it. 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Coming in. Actually, let's finish one. Like to do this counter stretch, hip flexor. So what I've done is I've just rotated. Let me come back to that. From the frog, I've straightened out the one knee. I've rotated the one side, and I go into that hip flexor all the way below and above, and I rotate and look over opposite shoulder. Take a couple breaths. Let's do this on the other side. Come over on the other side. Let that hip drop down, in through the nose, out through the nose, and allow myself to look over the shoulder, just fall into that stretch. And it's tighter on this side, and then coming back to center. Okay, lizard position. Last one before we transfer into the shoulders. Okay, so let's find our tripod foot, big toe, little toe, heel. My daily reminder, if you're doing this, week 5 is your first time doing it. I'm much slower and deliberate in week 1 explaining all these things. Okay, let's get our circles. In other words, week 1's a good place to start. Circles one direction, and circles in the other direction. Okay, find nice balance between a stretch in the back of that front leg and the front of the back hip. Okay, and I'm going to put my hand on the knee, push and look away, and then pull and look over. Push, look away, pull, and look over. Try to time up your breathing. 2. And last one. Okay, rotations here. Inside arm, forearm down to the ground, rotate up. Inside arm down, rotate up. 3, 2, and 1. Straighten up the leg a little bit, pulse here. Let's go into the hamstring. Maintain that tripod foot, big toe, little toe, heel, down onto the ground. That foot is preventing, think about it, preventing from getting pulled. Feel that stretch through mid hamstring. 2, 1, and on the other side. Okay, now from this side, get a different angle. You'll see the back knee, but remember, maintain that tripod foot. Remember to keep the front knee as far forwards as you can. Okay, front knee as far forwards as you can, and then draw some circles. Change directions. Create some space, hand on the knee, push, look away, pull, look up. And for those of you counting, yes, sometimes I'll do more on one side than the other, many times because I just lose count. But because sometimes I'm tighter on one side, and if you feel the same way, let's say I switched the other one before you were ready, knowing that we'll go back to the other side, you can stay there a little bit longer. 2, and 1. Good. Inside arm, down to the ground. Work that forearm and elbow. Think about the elbow coming down, because then that is the shoulder rotating. 3, 2, and 1. Hamstring. Maintain that tripod foot. Resist the urge to pull the foot. Feel that mid hamstring. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, shoulders and wrists. So let's prepare the wrists. And we know now, okay, there's a lot of, start with some circles. So separate the fingers as much as possible. Shoulders over top of the hands. Okay, load up the forearms here by moving the shoulders forwards. Just enough to feel that stretch. So we know now, doing the back bridge weekly, how much strain this can put on the wrists. And although it's not necessarily the wrists that are the limiting factor, we're looking at T-spine and shoulders as well. I want to help prepare them for load. Okay, now we're going to get the palms up, fingers pointing towards each other. Lock out those elbows, and then just move left and right. Gently increase the load through flexion. And then from here, make a fist, and then extend the fingers. Make a fist, and extend the fingers. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, now wrist circles, extend, extend. Both directions. Now let's load up the elbows, separate fingers, same position. Okay, let's go down into tricep extensions. Gradually increase the load. So just a little bit here. We want to feel mainly the pattern, okay, of that elbow coming straight down, loading up the tricep equally left and right. Try not to favor one side more than the other here. Okay, and you'll tend to favor the dominant side. Okay, now we go closed chain circles, so outwards and then back down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Opposite directions. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and hold this position here. Knees off of the ground. Let's go into a beast. Okay, so we're loading up the shoulders. Fingers are separated. Scapular push-ups. Keep those shoulder blades away from the ears. 2019, 18, 16. Stay balanced. 14, 12, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Push into a down dog and pedal out. Down dog and pedal out. Alternating foot with the opposite foot or opposite hand. Pressing the ground. 3, 2, and 1. Now from this down dog position, think about pushing the chest towards the feet. Push the chest towards the feet. We want to get that overhead position. Okay, so it's almost like we've got the reverse back bridge now. I want to load up. I want to feel the shoulder blades, the T-spine, getting tension here. And then from here, we're going to come back into the beast. Okay, we're going to be going back intermittently into that down dog position. So we hold the beast. We're loading up the shoulders. I know it's tough. Keep those knees off the ground. Okay, we want to now go into our under switch. Now we're going to hang out here in the under switch. Focus on this in the crab quite a bit, but the shoulder, I want to screw that shoulder into the socket. So it's important you screw the shoulder into the socket, and then we're going to roll the shoulder inwards. Notice how my elbow rolls in and then out. Okay, that outwards position is the important one, but by comparison, it's important to understand what inwards is so that you don't go there. 2 and 1. Come back to the beast. Under switch, other side. Okay, so different angle here. When I roll the shoulder in and out, you can see that when the shoulder gets rolled out, I squeeze the shoulder blade, and I want to get the shoulder away from the ear. I don't want the shoulder at the ear. I want the shoulder away from the ear. So I'm inwards, outwards, inwards, outwards. Maintain this position. And back to center. Okay, down dog. Let's go into that press, chest to the toes. You can alternate left and right side. Okay, or left and right side bias. Straighten out those legs, but really focusing on the T-spine, your mid-back, moving towards the feet. Back in the beast. Okay, so we're going to continue. We're going to progress the under switch. You screwed the shoulder into the socket. The shoulder's away from the ear. So when we press the hips up, shoulders away from the ear. I've externally rotated the shoulder. I'm very comfortable in this position. This is a nice rest position for the shoulder. Okay, hips, I've extended both of them. So the same side hip as the arm that's down is all the way up. My knees are over top of the feet. I'm not letting them collapse inwards. Now the challenge here, the rotation or the tightness through the chest. We want to pull the elbow down away, feel that stretch through the chest, press the other hip up into the ceiling, knees over top of the feet, make a fist, pull that elbow down, and then let's come back down, center, other side. Okay, screw the shoulder in the socket, shoulder away from the ear. Same side hip is pressed up into the ceiling, knees are over top of the feet. Gonna pull the other elbow down, make a fist, feel a stretch to the chest. Another 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back down. Down dog. Get that extension through the spine. Push the chest towards the feet. Okay, now I've loosened up now where I'm getting the stretch more into the calves, hamstrings. It's good. That means the limiting factor, less likely to be that T-spine. 2, 1. All right, now let's progress into the crab reach. All the good things. Screw the shoulder into the socket, press the hips up. Again, make sure we're extended, shoulder away from the ear, knees over top of the feet, not collapsing inwards. I'm gonna pull the elbow down first, feel that tension through the chest, and then I'm gonna reach up and look down towards the fingers. Press up here for 5, 4, 3. Press those hips. 1, come back down. Other side. Don't forget to press the hips up into the ceiling. Screw the shoulder in the socket. Let's go, hips up. Screw that shoulder in, shoulder away from the ear. And then make sure the hips are up nice and high, knees over the feet. Pull the elbow down, make a fist, and now open up and reach. Look down at the fingers. Hold this position. How's your position doing? Knees out over the feet, hips up high for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back down. Rotate back into the beast. One more down dog. Press that chest into the feet and then walk yourself upwards. Slowly bring yourself up and keep my chin to the chest. Slowly up. And then hands on the tops of the hips. Press the hips forwards. All right, so next part here. Continue with the shoulders. I'm gonna go to a wall. If you don't have a wall that you can put your back flat up against, you're gonna do this lying down on the ground. Okay, imagine if you're lying this on the ground, it's gonna be easier for you to get your back flat against the ground and head against the ground, but you wanna maintain that. If you've got access to the wall, okay, I've got my back flat, I've got my feet moved just away about 2 foot lengths away from the wall. I wanna get my elbows touching the wall. Again, make sure that I maintain my back position. Now the first part here, I want to rotate the hands down, so I'm pivoting from the elbows. Again, if you're lying on the ground, it's the same thing. I'm keeping those elbows down the ground. I'm internally rotating the shoulders, and then externally, I want to get the backs of the hands to touch the wall. Okay, now pay attention to your low back, especially those of you that have the tendency, if I've ever trained you, and I say keep that rib cage down, probably starting to extend in the spine, try to flatten that low back against the wall, flatten that low back against the wall. Rotating the hands in, another 3, 2, and now keep those hands up, back of the hands against the wall. Let's do a little back check here, and now let's press up. We've got 20 reps. This is gonna be tough. Extend, keep the forearms on the ground or on the wall. 2, 3, going to 20, 4, 5, 10 more. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that is extremely tough for me. Coming out up. That gets my heart rate up the highest. Okay, having to squeeze those shoulder blades together and keep your rib cage aligned. And this is where a lot of the problems come from overhead pressing, where you begin to arch and you don't have that full external rotation. So a good way to strengthen those muscles. That's why your shoulders are burning right now, and I'm talking in between the next one because I need a little rest. So palms up. I want to reach back to the opposite shoulder. Okay, I want to get that hand. Now we're doing internal rotation. Back of the hand on the shoulder, reach up as high as you can. Okay, I'm going to hold this position, and now I want to pull the elbow back. Pull the elbow back. So I hold that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then come back. Opposite side. Reach up as high as you can. Get in position. Now pull the elbow back for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it again. 3 per side here. Get set up. Get a little bit higher. Pull that elbow back for 5, 4, 3. Keep the rib cage down. 1. Other side. Nice and high. Pull that elbow back. So I'm thinking back towards the wall behind me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more per side. Up nice and high. Pull that elbow back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then last one. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And good. Okay, those shoulders are prime. We got the wrists ready, shoulders, elbows ready, and now we are going to go into the back bridge. So for those of you who progress this, first from the floor, then to the bench, if you film yourself, as always, this is when I say the retest is a good opportunity to see how far you've come along. Otherwise, doing this by ear, you're thinking about how high you can get up. So we're gonna go through this now. Go with now progressions. I'm going to find on this last one. We'll just go through these 3 progressions as well, so help us warm up. But just go as far. If you weren't able to get to that full bridge, try it. See if you can get, even if that attempt is better than the first one, then that's a net win. You might not be able to do a full bridge yet, and that's fine. I can't do the full wheel yet with arms locked out. My kids can easily do it. They like to point out that I can't do it, but making sure that you're trying and that all of this work that we've done is leading towards better positions. Not necessarily a life goal to get to the wheel, but by working towards it, you're gonna have better overhead positions. All right, so first part, let's get our setup, feet close to the butt. I'm gonna bring my hands back. I can lift my hips up in this bridge, and then I'm gonna get my fingers pointing towards the heels. Open a little bit, think about separating those fingers as much as possible. I roll the shoulder blades so that I'm on the shoulder blades, and then I'm just gonna press up a little bit so that I'm on the back of my head. However, in this position, the back of my head, I'm still loading up the triceps, and I'm pressing the hips up. I'm not putting all the weight on the neck. This is important. You don't wanna put all the weight on the neck. So this is our stage 1. Come back down and relax. Stage 2, we can go up a little bit higher, top of the head. So think top of the head now. Top of the head on the ground, pressing those hips up. My elbows are still bent, and then back down. I'm loading up through the arms. Do not rest on the head fully. You can put a little bit of weight there. And then stage 3 is gonna be how far can you get up? If you can fully straighten out the arms, fantastic. If you can't, like me, as hard as you can, or as high as you can, for as long as you can. Here we go. Rep 1, press. Pressing up and relax. Okay, rep 1. I forgot for this one. Throw on shoes. Prevent the sliding. Hey, we've got 10 reps. Push as high as you can. Okay, for me, like I'll be able to compare my week 1 to week 5, see how this feels, and really, for those of you who've been following along for the past at least 6 weeks, there's a week negative one because we did this previous to the 5-week program here. Let's get set up. But I want to see or feel, can I get into a better position now that I did at the beginning? All right, rep 2, and here we go. And relax. Can definitely hold it a lot longer. I can create a little bit more tension. My wrists don't hurt as much. Okay, and again, remember the wrists, it's not so much your wrist strength or mobility. This is going to come from the shoulders and the spine. So really try to extend, especially if you can get a few breaths in there, you'll really start to feel things loosen up in that rep. So just like a stretch, okay, you'll start to feel it. Hips can get up a little bit higher. You can extend the elbows a little bit more. That's what we're working towards. Rep 3. Okay, whichever phase you're in, here we go. And down. Whew. Okay, so these are a little bit like our kettlebell front racks in the sense that you always need to leave enough energy to get them back down. So you don't want to go to complete exhaustion and then just collapse, okay? Because that's going to you're going to increase the risk quite a bit, not just for your wrists, but your head, neck, okay? Similar to that double kettlebell front rack. You don't want to just drop the bells afterwards. You got to leave enough juice to get them back down. Now in between, because I get a lot of this extension, okay, I get these sort of mini wipers moving back and forth to help lengthen out through the spine. Okay, let's go into 4. And press. And down. Yeah, I'd say the big thing is the duration. And I'm just, again, anecdotally saying that compared to where it's been the last few weeks. But I struggled doing that on the bench. I definitely struggled doing that on the ground. Still a lot of room to be able to extend those arms, right? And I feel this primarily, it's the back, right? Think of your extension. How often, if you're not doing gymnastics with your kids, how often do you get into this position? Probably never. Great anti-sitting position, but you don't necessarily want to go from your chair right into a back bridge. And if you can, you're probably good enough to do it anyway. 5, coming up. And up. Keep the knees outwards. And down. All right, that's good. As I progress, I start to feel this more in the shoulders. So the shoulders getting weaker, or at least more, I should say, more fatigued, as opposed to the wrists just taking the brunt of the force and having to come down. And it's a good thing as you start to improve that mobility. You move the tension to different areas, and then the real work, the real improvement towards the bridge happens. Okay, move those wrists around in between. And, if you are in that first or second stage, try doing some intermittent full bridges, or just, even if you just get up as high as you can, then come back down, shake out the wrist. I know what that's like. Sort of like when we learned double unders, you do some singles and get a double. Do some singles, get a double. So you want to gradually increase that tension. Okay, second half now, coming into rep 6. Get into position and push. Down. Okay, then the longer you can hold it up, the more you can start thinking about your form. So for me, just getting into the breath work there is tough. But I'm thinking, with my feet planted on the ground, my knees want to collapse in. So when we're doing that crab reach, right? Your knees want to collapse in. You want to force them outwards. It's going to create tension through the hips. So think about the knees pushing out. And then I want to actively think about driving the hips up into the ground or squeezing the glutes, which is going to create more of that arch. More arch means more I shouldn't say relaxation, more relief from the wrists and that discomfort through the wrists. Okay, it's going on to 7. And up. And down. Whew. So I got my hands a little bit closer on that one. My feet were a little bit closer. I didn't get up as high. My elbows didn't extend quite as much, but I also didn't feel in my wrists nearly the same amount. Okay, so your position can also, how you get set up, can change how you feel. If I get my feet a little bit further away and my hands a little bit further away, I can get a little bit more extension, but it puts more pressure on the wrist. So we talked about that relief from the wrist. You can do this. Play around with your position. Feet closer, hands closer. Going into rep 8. And up. down, good. Okay, that, I wouldn't call it a trick because it's what good form is, but that driving the heels into the ground, pushing the knees out, hips up into the ceiling, helps a lot of things upstream. So going into the shoulders and wrists, if I can focus on those hips, okay, it starts to make it a little bit easier for me to extend. Lots of things to think about. 2 more. All right, going into 9. Get set. And up. And down. Shaking it out. Okay, 5 weeks. 5 weeks of work. Comes down. 1 more rep. How high can you get? How long can you hold it? It's a tough one to time looking at the clock, but let's see how long, unless you're filming yourself. Okay, how long can you hold this? How high can you get up? It's better for you to get up as high as you can for a shorter duration than it is to hold a lower position for a longer duration. So in other words, don't make it easier to hold a longer time. We want to think about better positions first, duration second. It's really the theme for all lifting. Movement patterns first, load second. Okay, getting set. Final 1, 2, 1, and here we go. And down. Oh. Whew. That was the first one where it wasn't the wrists limiting factor to come down. That was really just fatigue. Whew. Breathing in through the nose, out through the nose to finish that last one off. Whew. Knees into the chest. Little roll. Okay, we've done a lot of extension. Dynamic flexion. Bring the knees into the chest, in through the nose, out through the nose. Okay, let's come up, roll over, come into a little tabletop here from the fists, light flexion, just to counter all the extension we just had. In through the nose, out through the nose. Good. Well, that wraps it up. 5 weeks strength stretching. Okay, I definitely had some improvement in that wheel position. You might be thinking, well, why do we want to improve the wheel position? So again, to summarize, the wheel position is a proxy for all overhead positions. This this definitely requires the most range of motion. So if you can improve this position, you are in turn increasing or improving your range of motion. When that increased range of motion in the wheel improves, then when we go into other overhead positions like the barbell press, the single arm dumbbell press, kettlebell press, jerks, then you are in a far better position to get that weight, safer position to get that weight overhead. Be able to lift more, be able to do more reps. Okay, so for us, what inspired this was we started doing barbell presses at Fuel, and the contraindication, if someone's rib cage is flaring, if they're not able to get the hand directly over their head, they shouldn't be doing it. They're just increasing their risk of injury or having a less than optimal risk to fitness ratio. So we wrap this one up. We're going to be starting a whole new segment for next month's programming. It's pretty consistent, because we know that adherence and progressive overload is what leads to results. See you in the next one.